Welcome to Sharing My Truth with Mel and Suzie, the uncensored version, where we bear it all.
We do.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, and welcome back to Sharing My Truth Pod. You're here with Mel and Suzie, and we're ready to get into a fun little episode right here. It's pretty dirty, it's pretty sexy, and I'm here with my best friend Mel to talk about it. Hey, girl. Hey, babe. How are you?
Hello, darling. Love the way you're already laughing.
Because I think that's something that we have to remember is that we have to laugh.
Oh,
in the face of sexual animosity. Is that good?
Yeah, I have no idea what you just said.
Okay,
but yes,
okay.
we do. I think that's important.
Because it's we had a story. We have a write-in from someone, a woman, and we're gonna read it to you guys. You guys are gonna give us your opinions as well if you want on social. And yeah, I'm so happy she was able to kind of tell us about this story of hers, because I think a lot of people are dealing with this right now and a lot of people don't want to talk about it.
Oh, I'd say the bulk of people. Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's the weird thing about sex.
Yeah.
Shall I?
Please.
So I've caught something on a date, is what she said to us.
Right.
So she said for the past year, she's been using dating apps and she's 57. And she's amazed by the response that she's had. So she's gone on lots of dates. But mostly the dates are about sex. But she's fine with that. She's having a great time. And everything's been great. She's had a fan old time. Until now, because she's caught something.
Right. So that gets a little serious. She's got an STI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now she feels embarrassed, ashamed. And although she's actually sorted out the STI, or she's dealt with it, she's medically dealt with it, it's left her feeling very dirty and ashamed of herself, of her behavior and everything else. And so she's written into us to sort of get our opinion. So I would say first, I commend you for speaking. Like, that's amazing.
Absolutely.
Amazing. And you're not alone. And especially she's 57.
Yeah.
She's actually in a group that, because of dating apps, I think it's something like sort of, over the age of 45, that people are dating a lot more than perhaps they were in the past because they can meet people. And so this is on the rise. And I think it's interesting because we've talked about this, that I think people assume that STIs are things that young people get because you're partying, you're younger, you're having, or the thought process is you're having more partners.
Yeah.
But that's actually not the truth.
No.
So what would you say to this lady?
I just think it's so funny, like exactly what you're saying. But it's a fact that young people are having less sex than ever.
Yes.
So obviously the people who are maybe older, maybe they're divorced, maybe they're finally kind of coming into their sexual freedoms, they're the ones who are now having to deal with like all of these repercussions from not using condoms because they just maybe weren't. They just think, oh, well, I'm like older now, I'm not going to get an STI. But it's like, no, these are like, you're now having sex with people who are like have had a lot of sexual partners now. Yeah. So obviously everyone has to be careful, whether you're young or you're kind of coming up in your age, obviously. And I'm a huge fan of condoms because I've never been on any other kind of birth control.
Yeah.
So I've always been a huge advocate for condom use, and I'm a person who, I'm a woman who carries them. I know a lot of women don't buy their own condoms, and I think that's just such a tragedy to not feel like you're in charge of your own sexual pleasure, where you're not in charge of, like, not getting that STI. Like, you can't rely on the man to put a condom on.
Well, no,
you have to be the one to take charge of that and being like, no, we're not having sex if you don't put a condom on.
Well, exactly. And if
this is someone you've just met, kind 100%,
of thing. And if you're in a relationship, the woman generally is the one taking the contraception. So why wouldn't you buy condoms? Wrongly or rightly, that's what happens. And I think to your point about older people, I think there's several things. I think if I look at it from my point of view that are going on, you might have been in a relationship for a very long time, so you get out of the habit. I mean, if you don't do something, whatever it is, you don't remember. You know, it's just like it doesn't occur to you. It's like weird. You're doing something almost new all over again.
Yeah.
If you've say, been in a relationship 20, 30 years, imagine you've not used a condom for 20 years.
And like, why would you start now? Like, it's just like,
Exactly. And then if you're like this woman has written into us, we don't know the circumstances. Was she divorced or whatever? She's now having lots of sex. She's enjoying herself. It's kind of not at the forefront of your mind.
No.
And also possibly because you haven't been out on the dating scene, you haven't been doing this, so you haven't been.
well, also, like, since she's a little older, right? She might be going through perimenopause. She might be going through menopause already. Like, she's like, why would I have to take
100%.
use a condom if I'm not going to get pregnant?
100%. And I think the point that's so interesting is that you're 57 and it hasn't occurred to you can get an STI.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm not saying that in a critical way to her, I'm saying that to everybody,
Yeah.
like young, old, whatever. At the end of the day, sex is something that kind of happens. There's not often a lot of thought process going on with it. And that's why this stuff happens.
Exactly.
But there are consequences. So, you know, obviously go out and have fun if that's what you want to do and you want to have multiple partners. That is 100% your choice.
yes.
But you're going to be careful.
You just have to, like, there are condoms now that are so, like, techie in, like, the way of, like, they're super lubricated for women. They're
Right.
ribbed for their pleasure.
Yes.
You know, they have super thin ones where I'm sure obviously it doesn't feel like exactly what a vagina,
Right.
but you know, you have to wear one if you don't want to have a pregnancy,
Yes.
and if you don't want herpes, gonorrhea, chlamydia,
Or
you know,
HIV,
and more.
Or any other
Any of them.
hideous, horrible things that have major consequences.
And I don't want to like scare anyone out of having sex, but like there's just, yeah, exactly like you're saying, there's consequences to having sex, and it's not just pregnancy. And I think
No.
people forget about it.
I think they do. I mean, I really think they do. And I think if you're older, there is probably something going on in your head. Well, I've done that all before.
Yeah.
You know, and I think also if you are older and because of dating apps, you're starting to date and starting to have sex again, that perhaps more than you did when you were younger, because we're in a different kind of social whatever, in a different world. So maybe it is in a sense new to you.
Yeah.
Like obviously you've had sex before, but maybe not with the same amount of people. I mean, we've had people on this pod, we've talked about how they've had, you know, a sort of reincarnate, like a sort of whatever you want to call it, a reincarnation of their sexual selves.
Love that.
And it could be that you didn't actually have that many partners and you met your partner. You were with them for years and years and years. Now you're not. So you're having this fun time. Well, you've never actually been through this thing where you've been having lots of sexual partners. It hasn't even occurred to you.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that people don't even think that you can still get an STI if you use a condom, or that you should, if you're participating in oral sex, be using some kind of protection, which obviously nobody does because there wouldn't be any point
That's
doing
the
it in
thing
first place.
also. It's like literally no one, I mean, obviously not no one, but I think it's a lot less likely that you are going to use a condom while giving a blowjob.
I
Like
think
you're
it's-
just
I think
not
it's
gonna do it.
Extremely unlikely. I
It's
think it's
so unlikely.
almost nil. I mean, let's be honest. What you should be doing and what you're doing are two different things.
Yeah.
But the thing I'm interested is she talked about shame, and I'm really
Right.
please don't feel that, you know, at the end of the day, you haven't done something illegal or
No.
committed some heinous crime. You've had sex. It's
And also,
really,
you got tested. You did the work.
Right.
You went to go get tested, which we
Right.
should all make an effort to doing more
Right,
of. Should
right.
all get tested. And then she, obviously, she was lucky enough to have one that you could get rid of right away,
Right.
which is excellent. Which
Right.
that is why you get tested. You just do it. You see if you have it. If you have it, they give you these pills. It's super easy.
Right.
And then you go on your third day.
Exactly. And just say, okay, I won't do that again. I'll do it this way next time. And that's it.
That's literally
Don't
it.
feel ashamed.
No.
Don't feel dirty. Why?
And usually the people, I've been to a few walking clinics in my life. Usually the people in the walking clinics are actually so nice.
yeah.
They're actually way nicer than like regular doctor's offices.
Yes.
Because they deal with people all the time. They're dealing with genitals all the time. You don't feel
Yes.
weird about showing your genitals to
And
anyone.
Of course not.
They
yeah.
fucking see it all.
yeah.
It's going to be uncomfortable for 15 minutes and then you're going to get out of
Yeah.
there and you're going to treat yourself to a nice cup of cappuccino or something.
Cappuccino, very nice.
Yeah.
And also the fact that most people have had some kind of, maybe not, I personally haven't had an STI, but I
Have you had a
have,
scare?
no,
Wow.
because before I was married, I always used condoms.
Yeah.
And I was always on the pill, which obviously I would reiterate, is not the same, everyone. Stops you getting pregnant. But I was always on that for hormonal reasons, and I always use condoms. So I never had an issue. But I have had things like, urinary infections and thrush, which is horrible.
Right.
And people think those are STIs,
No,
and they're not.
Definitely not.
And they're still very unpleasant. And then you shouldn't be having those and having sex.
Definitely not.
That's a very bad idea.
But I have had a scare, and it was,
excuse me.
That's okay. And it was with an ex-boyfriend. We had broken up, and then we started sleeping together again, because that's just what you do when you're, stupid. And
Friends
with benefits, but it was whatever. And I know he was sleeping with other people. I was sleeping with other people because we weren't together.
Yeah.
We'd broken up. And one day he is like, "You gave me chlamydia." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Like, I thought, like, I was just like, of course it's me. Of course it's me. I'm sleeping with a lot of people. I'm sure he's not sleeping with or that many people. I don't know. Maybe he's just sleeping with me. So I go get checked, obviously. And then I have to tell everyone who I had been sleeping with, all the guys had been sleeping with.
Oh my God.
And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I might have chlamydia." Like, you're texting these guys, right?
Oh
I might have
my
chlamydia.
God.
You have to go get checked. Sorry.
Of
I hope
course
this
you're
doesn't
not
happen
calling
again.
them because
I'm not calling them.
texting them.
Definitely not, because then they don't pick up, and then you're never gonna tell them, right? And I've heard about when an actual, like, you're at the clinic because they want you to tell the people, even if you don't know you have it. So you go to the clinic, they make you take the pills right away because you're like, "I think I have chlamydia. Someone I'm sleeping with has chlamydia." They're like, "Take the pills right away. We're gonna do a test. Everything looks fine, but take the pills." And you have to text all of your partners that you've been sleeping with.
But why if you don't have chlamydia?
Just because, just in case. If you do, and then you go home, because they have control of you in that room.
Right.
So, like, they don't want you to go home and literally just, like, being like, "Oh, well, I probably don't have it." And then, they don't tell you. They're like, if we don't call, then it's fine. If we call, obviously you have something. So I don't hear anything. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm gonna call just in case. And they're like, "Oh yeah, you're fine. You don't have anything." And I was like, okay, so I just got like slut shamed by my ex-boyfriend who like says that I gave him chlamydia, even though he got it from some other fucking slut. Which is fine.
Yes.
And then I also had to text all of my sexual partners. I think I was only dating, like, not dating. I was only sleeping with like 3 other guys at the time, but I was like, it's just so, like, not, but you feel embarrassed, right? You're like, I didn't even have it, and I feel embarrassed. Like,
but
it's
why
so ridiculous.
that he assumed it was you?
Because he thought I was a slut, which I am, but I wasn't the slut that he was.
Wow.
That gave it to him, which is so fucking funny. Like, I know who he got it from because I know the other girl, and I know the other guy that she was sleeping with. Anyways, it's a whole kerfuffle, and that's why I moved from Edmonton.
Wow. Wow. And how long does it take to get the result?
I think they say within a week or something. Like, we'll call you within a week. Like,
that's
it's not
why,
like months and months. Like,
that's why they want you to tell people, because then they could have already slept with God knows how many.
Well, exactly. Like, you really don't know, and they don't want people passing everything. Like, they're actually very good about it, and I like respect it. And STIs shouldn't be something you're ashamed of.
No.
So it shouldn't matter if you're texting that person and being like, "Hey, you should just get checked. I might have chlamydia."
It shouldn't be, but the reality is,
of course,
it's completely different. And also, I don't think enough people understand how you can get STIs, the reasons why you should be using a condom. And also, when you actually think about it, you're talking about, okay, so I was sleeping with this guy and 3 other guys, and he was sleeping with however many other girls, and then that girl was sleeping here. Then you realize how big the kind of web of people is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, right.
Yeah.
That's why you should be using a condom.
Yeah.
Because when you're sleeping with one person and you're not exclusive, and then of course there's a whole thing about how do you know if you're exclusive? You know,
exactly.
At a whatever point you're in your relationship, then you realize how many people you're actually sleeping with.
Yeah.
And that's why you got to cover it up.
Yeah, you really do.
I mean, that's pretty much it, isn't it? But no, it shouldn't be shame.
No.
And I really feel, again, for this woman who wrote into us, please don't feel shame. I mean, you haven't done anything bad or wrong. You should have, and maybe, we don't know, you did use a condom and something happened.
Even though they are, and I want to say, they're 98% effective in not giving, like, not swapping the STIs.
Yeah, yes.
You know, like they
not
are
fully foolproof.
extremely effective.
Yeah.
But that 2% I read was only because they might be used improperly.
Right.
So whether you, because a lot of people, and I do this too, I'm guilty of it, is like you put the condom on a little too late. Like, you know, you're
I
still
think
like,
everyone does that.
right, but that's improper use, and that's still how
Yes.
you can get an STI, right?
And I never actually occurred to me that was improper use until we read about that. Because, I mean, logically, but who in the world does that? They
Puts
don't.
it on right away.
Of course they don't.
You gotta get it hard first.
Well, yes. And then, you know, there's all the, you know, whatever's
Yeah, the
going
foreplay,
on.
the bits and bobs.
Yeah, bits and bobs going on before. You're not, I mean, come on. I
Yeah.
mean, because in your head, in all your heads,
Yes.
whoever you are, is that it's there to stop, to protect.
Yeah.
So why would you need it? Well, I love the way I'm doing that.
Yeah, love that.
Why would you need it before? So I think that's the point of our conversation here, and also to this writing, to this person who's written in, is that there is a lot of misinformation. Even I thought I knew quite a lot about it, and so did you. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was 98% effective because skin to skin, right?
Skin to skin?
I never even thought
All
about it.
STIs can be transmitted through skin to skin
I
contact.
thought it was just fluids.
No.
I didn't know that.
Which
See?
is literally you touch a dick that obviously you might not get it, but you
Right.
can touch that dick and it could. And you touch yourself and that's
We'll
skin to
touch that
skin.
vagina.
Touch that vagina. You touch the dick, you
'Cause-
touch the vagina
Yeah, because
That's it.
my thought was
with
always...
your hand, you know, like this is
with
what
my
I'm saying. This
Yeah,
is-
thanks for
yeah.
that. I always thought that it sort of comes out the body and it sort of dies quite quickly. You see, I didn't even know that.
Mel hates fluids. When we were talking
I'm
about
not.
fluids,
I'm not
she's
a big.
like, no,
I'm not a big fluid person. Don't spit around me,
really
please, because
not
I
a
really
fluid girl. Don't
can't
spit in
handle
her
it.
mouth. She's not into that kind of
No.
kinky shit.
No, no.
But yeah, so I think that's the big thing. Just a little bit of, we need some more information, and we need more people interested in this information.
Yeah, I think it takes like stop being so embarrassed about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I get it. It is. I think we all make it so embarrassing. Like it's such a sort of. We're all so embarrassed about anything to do with our private parts. Even the fact that I'm saying private parts.
private parts. Yes, private parts.
That we're so embarrassed about it. Yet everyone does it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
STIs, if we were more honest and open about it, then there would be probably a lot less. It would be a lot less problematic. Like
Yeah.
even if I can imagine if you're with somebody sort of casually, not like in a relationship, and you say to them, "Oh, I've been tested," they're immediately going to jump to the conclusion, "Well, why have you been tested? What's wrong with you?" Blah, blah, blah. You know, that's going to go through, and that's ridiculous. You should be like, "Well, that's great that you're on top of it."
I
as it
also
were.
want to say, like, I think this is a huge problem in the straight community, but because there was that
Yes.
huge, obviously, like HIV
Yes. Yeah.
thing, I don't know what, you know, horrible thing that happened in the 80s with the gay community, they are so much more careful, and they are the ones who are getting tested. They are the ones who are driving this force of change of getting tested and using condoms because of HIV and all these other horrible STIs.
Yeah.
And we, as straight people, more women now today have HIV and don't know about it.
Yes, I know.
And that is such a scary thought, because if they're
It's
obviously like,
terrifying.
you're literally you just keep passing it on because you're not getting checked for HIV too. Because you don't think you need
no.
to.
And the only time I've been checked for HIV was when I had my second daughter, who was born in Switzerland, and you have to be tested there.
Wow.
So I was tested. But before that, and I, you know, because I'm 50, I was sort of an older teenager in my early 20s, right at the height of HIV, the AIDS epidemic. And I know several people who have died of AIDS, who currently still have HIV and have had it for, you know, decades. So but it was interesting how in that period there was so much talk, and then now nobody talks about it ever.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's still there.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a bit like COVID. It's still there. It's like we've stopped talking about it, but it hasn't gone away.
Yeah.
And I find that amazing. And you're right that young females are having a lot of unprotected sex. I mean, obviously, therefore, so are young males if they're having sex with men. And what is that? Is it because they feel they have to? Are they being put into situations where they think men don't want to have sex with them.
Because the
If
guys
I-
are like, oh yeah, no, I'm not gonna feel anything. It's not gonna feel good
Yeah.
for me. And it's
Well,
like, okay,
there
well,
is-
it's not gonna good for me either.
Right.
Okay, we're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
either of us are gonna have
Yeah.
a good fucking time here.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. I mean, if I think about young people, Gen Zs, I don't think they talk about STIs nearly as much as my generation did.
Right. Because maybe
I-
you had to because of the AIDS epidemic.
100%.
Right.
People talked about it all the time. And people were very aware of having to get tested. People were very aware of actually being tested for HIV because at that time it could create issues with insurance and stuff like that. But I mean, people were very aware of it.
Mhm.
And today I don't think
No.
people do
No one fucking
until
talks about it.
people don't go and get tested for anything until they have an issue,
Yes.
which to me is fascinating because that's not my thought process.
no.
I am very much for
You're very
encouraging
pro.
go and get tested. Yeah,
Before there's a problem.
If you're sexually active, I'm not talking. In my case, it would be perhaps slightly pointless. And some people could say to me, "Well, you're naive. Who knows what you're doing, or who knows what your husband's doing?" But I'm fairly sure, and that's
I'm
another
fairly
whole
sure too.
conversation. But yeah,
Okay, I'm going to read some things that are like
yes. Tell
questions that
us.
people have and what are the answers to these? Okay, so
Mhm.
do condoms protect against everything? Latex condoms are the best way to help prevent STI transmission during sexual activity, but they aren't 100% effective. We already talked about this. They're 98% effective,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
extremely effective. So please use them.
Yes.
But yeah, so they can be transmitted, all and any STIs can be transmitted through skin to skin contact,
Mhm.
which we've already talked about, which is a lot, which is like gonorrhea, chlamydia, HIV, hepatitis, like all of these things that are
Horrendous.
STIs. Literally, you don't want them.
Horrible.
Herpes.
Yeah.
Like some of these you can't, these stick
get
with
rid
you
of.
for your entire
Yeah.
lives.
And not a bit of pleasure and a lifetime of not much fun.
No. And like, also, I mean, we could talk about dental dams too, but like, does anyone actually use them? And probably in the lesbian community, but I know that none of my straight girlfriends are using fucking dental dams.
I don't think people do. We should have looked at the sales of that dental
The
plans.
sales?
Yeah.
Should we start selling them?
No, I mean that if they actually sell them, I'd love to know who's
I've
buying
seen them,
But I
in,
wonder
like shoppers.
if are lesbians actually buying them? If
Mhm.
if they're having casual sex, are they? I don't know. Do they use them? Don't know.
Because it's like when you're like, I hate calling it scissoring because that's not really what it is, but like when two girls are together, you're obviously touching vaginas. If
Well,
one
I
of you
would
has an
hope
STI,
so. I'm not quite sure what else you'd be doing.
Like,
but yeah.
obviously, like you're not wearing condoms because you're not getting pregnant.
Yes.
But there are obviously consequences to having
Yeah.
lesbian sexy sex.
But yeah, I mean, it's true. Actually, is there misunderstanding there? There probably is actually, because if your pregnancy is I think on the top of everyone's, like if you're having sex for pleasure,
Yes.
not for procreation,
No, fuck no.
then that's what you're terrified of,
Yes.
is getting pregnant and not worrying about all the other things.
I hate it. Okay, so can you get tested right after sex? Okay, getting tested right after sex won't give you any information of whether you were exposed to an STI.
Interesting. I don't think I knew that. So how long are you supposed to wait?
It says to wait at least a week, 1 to 2 weeks to be tested.
And what happens if you're saying that if you think there's a symptom? Because what if you're having lots of sex with lots of different people?
Yeah, no, that's it.
At what point are you supposed to be doing it?
I think we talked about UTIs. I think a lot of STIs have the same symptoms as a UTI.
Oh, you mean like
an STI or
burning
UTI.
when you pee?
Exactly,
for women,
things like that. And then you
or
get confused and then you go in like 2
discharge.
days later or something like that, 3 days later, and they're like, no, you don't have any STI. But that's too early to get tested.
Okay.
So maybe things are getting missed.
Right.
But it also says you should wait 1 to 6 months for a blood test.
Right.
So like,
Interesting.
let's say like you think you might have HIV
Yeah.
with the
Oh.
person who had HIV. So you should wait 1 to 6 months
Oh my
to get that
God.
test.
That's
So imagine.
terrible.
Yeah, that would be so bad.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Or syphilis. Oh my God, we haven't even talked about syphilis, but that's horrible.
Well, syphilis is funny because I think it's a disease that lots of people sort of in their mind it belongs to the Middle Ages, sort of
Yeah.
Henry VIII who died of syphilis, that kind of thing. But no, it's
Wasn't
very
there a
much
rumor that
alive.
Trump had syphilis?
Probably,
Did you hear that?
probably. I don't know. I didn't.
I mean, he has a lot of sex, I'm sure.
Well, does he?
I don't know.
Well, let's not think about it.
Okay. Can you test at home? Yes, you can test your STIs at home.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that either. So, what do you buy?
It just says that there's a bunch of direct-to-consumer healthcare companies offering STI testing from your home. So
that's
I
cool.
think you just have to look it up, see if you can get tested. Obviously, I think it's country dependent,
Yeah,
province
I'd
dependent,
imagine
state dependent.
it is.
But
can-
there are ways
Oh, that's good.
that you can do that. So that is really
But
wonderful.
I wonder if you can do it, if it's the same thing, you have to wait, or you can do it regularly, because that is like questionable. Like what the waiting period, you don't really know, right? And you might be
just-
unsure of the symptoms, because you know
Yeah.
sometimes in your head you can be like, you think, and then you're like, you kind of blow it, like you think, oh, it's worse
Yeah.
than it is, and maybe it isn't.
No, yeah, you're right. And I mean, I think people just want to be like, oh my God, I just want to make sure that like I don't have anything. And then they get tested too early and then they sleep with someone else.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
It's just so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the bottom line is just using a condom is the best. It's literally
Yes.
the best. I have said this before, Mel. I want to get condoms with our faces on them,
Yes, you
with
have
funny
said
little
that.
slogans, and we're gonna just give them out to people who need them because they should have condoms. And
Yes.
condoms are free if you go to clinics, by the way.
I know.
If you don't want to buy condoms, that's completely understandable. Go to a free clinic. You just
Yeah.
grab them,
I know.
which is like
Why
amazing.
wouldn't you do that?
I don't know. Go get a free condom. We're gonna figure out how to also provide some fun condoms, I think, because that would be hilarious.
She's desperate to do this. I do think
truly
it's a
am.
good idea. But so the thing that we should recap on,
Yes,
Susie,
darling.
is for our lady who wrote
Ooh.
into us,
Yes.
is that please don't feel shame.
Yes.
Feel actually pretty proud of yourself that you actually went and did something about this.
Absolutely.
Don't feel dirty, because that's ridiculous. You were having a fun time and having sex, and if you weren't using a condom, and that's how you're saying you got this STI, you made a mistake. You know, you haven't committed a crime.
No.
You've made a mistake. We're all humans. We've pretty much probably all done this. So please don't beat yourself up. If you've got it all sorted, now you know, use some condoms. And that when you have sex, you do have to have sex responsibly, but you kind of have to have, it has to be like a line of
Yeah.
like worrying about everything that can happen to you and the kind of fun thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't spend your whole life thinking, oh my God, I'm going to, you know, like all the
Get
scenarios.
an STI and it's
Yeah.
gonna be horrible and it's gonna ruin my life.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I know so many people who are healthy, who are happy, who live with STIs day to day.
Right.
Like STIs that you can't get rid of.
Right.
And they're happy, they have families. Like this isn't a death
There's lots
sentence.
of people, yeah, of course.
Like even HIV, AIDS
Yes,
is not a
yes.
death sentence anymore.
No.
Like there are so many ways that you can prevent, but also if you do get one, which is very common, there are things you can do with your life that it's not the end of the world.
There are. So just all you can really do is be as smart as you can,
Yes.
and you know, use a condom, which will mostly prevent it,
Yes.
and just have some fun.
Just know all the information and then go get fucked.
Fucked.
Fucked. Fuckity fucked.
Wow.
Have some fun with it.
The words spoken by Susie
You know?
herself. Okay.
You're welcome.
Well, I think we've covered that
I
subject.
believe so as well.
Yeah.
I guess till next time, guys, and we'll be up with that condom information as soon as we
Yes.
can.
And don't forget to send any of your questions
Yes.
to subscribe, share, do all that stuff you've got to do, and tell
Rate
us how
and
fabulous we
review.
are.
Oh, we love that. 5 stars.
We
love you guys.
We love stars. Love
stars. Sharing My Truth Pod is so excited to partner with Vibrator.com, where the A in Vibrator is the number 8. This is an extremely exclusive code where no other podcast has it. If you go to Vibrator.com right now, use the code MS15, that's MS15 at Vibrator.com. You can now get 15% off anything in store. That's any sex toys for you, your partner, your neighbor, your mom. We don't judge. We don't care. Get it now. Go to the link in our bio, put in the code, and get jiggy with it.
Thanks so much for listening. Please rate and review this podcast and follow us on social at Sharing My Truth Pod, and leave us a voicemail on our website, sharingmytruth.com, to share your stories and experiences with us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.